Hello everyone. Today we shall start with the development of nervous system. So directly instead of going to the development of nervous system, we shall start with some basics. Here we can see a picture of an embryonic germ disc. So it is the superior view of the embryonic disc. Showing the anterior end, it is like pear like, showing anteriorly little broader. This is the anterior and here is the posterior. And how can we say which is anterior, which is posterior? It is because of this primitive streak. Primitive streak appears usually on 15th day of intrauterine life. And anterior end of the primitive streak thickens to form primitive node, which invaginates to form notochord. So this is a basic idea about embryonic germ disc. Let's see the formation of nervous system with the neural tube. So here is the trilaminar germ disc which forms during the third week of intrauterine life. So the process of formation of three primary germ layers is known as gastrulation. So where we see ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Here the blue colored cells, columnar cells, are ectoderm. The cells form ectoderm, and lower the yellow color cuboidal cells are endoderm. They form endoderm. And intervening in between is intraembryonic mesoderm. And we can see the notochord which is formed from the primitive streak. So above to the notochord we can see the ectoderm. It is getting invaginated to form a groove-like structure. This groove is called as neural groove. This is the neural groove which is formed from the ectoderm. So because of the formation of this neural groove neural cells, we can divide the ectoderm into the surface ectoderm and neuroectoderm. So the periphery part is formed by the surface ectoderm which later forms epidermis of the skin, iris, nails and hair, and whereas the neuroectoderm leads to the formation of nervous system. So here is the next picture showing the neural groove where the neural tube forms from the neural groove. So neural tube formation begins on 28th day of intrauterine life when first pair of somites appear. Then what are these somites? The somites are from the intraembryonic mesoderm. The blue lining is the ectoderm. The pink one is the mesoderm which we already discussed. And the yellow cavity and yellow lining is from the endoderm. The cavity is the yolk sac cavity. And this mesoderm can be again differentiated into three parts. The medial most is the paraxial mesoderm. This is the paraxial mesoderm. The middle one is the intermediate mesoderm. And lateral most is the lateral plate mesoderm. The paraxial mesoderm gets thickened to form somites. So when first pair of somite appears, which leads to the formation of neural tube. So formation of somites and the notochord will induce the formation of neural tube. So notochord acts as a primary organizer for the development of neural tube. And the first pair of stomites usually appears at the occipital region. So this neural groove which is formed here, it starts fusing. Approximately the tips of the neural groove will start fusing with each other, forming a complete tube-like structure. And this fusion will start in the occipital region and slowly it extends craniocaudally. The fusion extends craniocaudally to form a complete neural tube, where the anterior end of the neural tube is called anterior neuropore, which is patent in the beginning, and it closes on 25th day of gestation. Whereas the caudal, the lower opening, is called as the posterior neuropore, which closes by 28th day of gestation. So here we can see the neural tube which is formed completely from the neuroectoderm, and between the ectoderm and the neural tube the tips of the cells which gets approximated, they get separated to form a cluster of cells called as neural crest cells. So these are neural crest cells which we'll discuss little later. And this is a neural tube, the cells forming the neural tube. The cavity inside the neural tube consists of a fluid called as amniotic fluid, which is a primitive CSF, and later the CSF proper is produced from the choroid plexus, which are formed later. So this is the neural tube cavity, which is filled with the amniotic fluid initially, later replaced by CSF. So here we can see another picture showing an anterior neuropore. This is the anterior neuropore, and here is the posterior neuropore of the neural tube. So this is the neural tube from superiorly above, how it looks. And anterior neuropore usually closes by 25th day, posterior neuropore closes later, little later on 28th day. And we can see the neural groove turning to form a neural tube, and the cells surrounding the neural tube, they form clusters on each side called as neural crest cells. So if the mother has increased alpha fetoprotein and acetylcholinesterase in the blood, in their serum, if there is increased of these things, then it may lead to causing of neural tube defects. So non-closure of anterior neuropore results in a condition called anencephaly. So this is anencephaly condition here, where the cranium is not formed. It is a lethal cranial neural tube defect, means the baby will be stillborn at birth, and it manifests with absence of underdeveloped cranium. The cranium is not formed, forebrain or cerebellum may be absent completely or may be underdeveloped, and results in polyhydramnios, means absorption of more amount of amniotic fluid by the baby inside the mother's womb, and due to this defective fetal swallowing center, and associated with the levels of alpha fetoprotein in maternal serum AFP in the amniotic fluid. So an increase in the alpha fetoprotein and acetylcholinesterase indicates that there is some neural tube defect. So anterior neuropore, if it fails to close, it results in a condition called anencephaly. So here is the anencephaly condition. So failure of the posterior neuropore closure results in a condition called as spina bifida. Spina bifida, there are various, based upon its severity, we can classify into various types. The first variety is the spina bifida occulta, where the bifid spinous process, here we can see the spinous process is not developed here with a bifid spinous process, and the fat is accumulated there, and the tuft of hair is present in that area. So this condition is called as spina bifida occulta. And the next variety is the spina bifida cystica. The spina bifida cystica with meningocele. So the meningocele means the meninges. So the meninges alone protrude out with a clear cyst. The cyst containing meninges. So we can see the cyst with layered inside by meninges, and it is a clear cyst. So this is the spina bifida cystica with meningocele. And the little more severe form of it is spina bifida cystica with meningomyelocele. Meningomyelocele means meninges as well as the spinal cord contents also protrude out, means the nervous tissue also protrude out, making the cyst unclear. So the cyst is not clear here and containing the meninges as well as the nervous tissue. So this is about the spina bifida cystica with meningomyelocele. And most severe form of spina bifida is rachis. Rachis is the most dangerous form of spina bifida, where the skin is open, the vertebrae are open, and the spinal cord is exposed with the leaking CSF. Suppose if there is a failure of closure of anterior neuropore and the posterior neuropore, it results in a condition called as craniorachis. rachis means there is a failure of anterior neuropore and posterior neuropore resulting in anencephaly and rachis both. Neural tube defects are one of the most common congenital central nervous system malformation, and they develop between the third and fourth week of gestation, and which are often due to the folic acid deficiency. And the most common neural tube defects which we saw now, that is meningomyelocele, spina bifida, and anencephaly where the anterior neuropore fails to close, and encephalocele. Encephalocele is also the neural tube defect where the protrusion of the contents along with the nervous tissue forms a cyst protruding through the opening of the cranium. So this is an encephalocele. Neural crest cells. So these are the cluster of cells which are formed during neurulation. The tips of the neural tube, when it forms, the tips of the neural tube will split away from the neural tube, forming a separate cluster of cells which are called as neural crest cells. These neural crest cells do not participate in the formation of neural tube, and these cells lie beneath the surface ectoderm. So it lies beneath the ectoderm on dorsal side of neural tube. So here is the neural tube, and these are neural crest cells. Let's see the derivatives of neural crest cells. Neural crest cells forms PNS, that is peripheral nervous system, which includes dorsal root ganglia. So let's see the derivatives. Peripheral nervous system, which includes dorsal root ganglion, sensory ganglion, autonomic ganglion, and also the ganglion which are associated with 5th, 7th, 9th and 10th cranial nerves. 5th is the trigeminal, 7th facial, 9th glossopharyngeal and 10th vagus. So the ganglia associated with 5th, 7th, 9th, 10th cranial nerves are also derived from the neural crest cells. And supporting cells present in the peripheral nervous system, which are the Schwann cells, which form the myelin sheath, and amphicytes or supporting cells which are present in the ganglion of peripheral nervous system, are derived from the neural crest cells. And the next derivatives are the meninges. To be more specific, leptomeninges. We know the brain and spinal cord is covered by dura mater, arachnoid matter and pia mater. Arachnoid matter and pia matter together called as leptomeninges. So the leptomeninges are also derived from the neural crest cells. Adrenal medulla, that is the suprarenal gland, the center of it is called as the medulla, and the calcitonin producing cells which are called as parafollicular cells present in the thyroid gland, which helps in the calcium metabolism. So all these are also derived from the neural crest cells. The primary chemoreceptors which are present in the carotid body and the skin pigment called as melanocytes and cranial vault are derived from the neural crest cells. So melanocytes, and it derives to form the cranial vault, dermis of the face and neck region. So most of the face and neck region, and it also derives to form skeletal and connective tissue components of pharyngeal arches. So these are the derivatives of neural crest cells. Along with the neural crest cells, there are small cluster of cells which are called as neuroepithelial cells. These neuroepithelial cells which develop along with the neural crest cells form ectodermal placodes. Means they get incorporated into the surface ectoderm to form ectodermal placodes, and which later derive to form nasal placodes, which forms the nasal cavity, otic placodes which forms the part of ear, and optic or lens placodes which forms the lens of eyeball. So these are the derivatives of neural crest cells and ectodermal placodes. So the neural crest cells, in a short way to tell, it forms the peripheral nervous system, and neural tube derives to form central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord. Let's see the fate of neural tube and development of brain. So after closing of the anterior neuropore and the posterior neuropore, the neural tube differentiates into three brain vesicles which are called as primary brain vesicles. So the cells which are present on the inner side of the neural tube lining the cavity of the neural tube are called as neuroepithelial cells, and these cells are rapidly dividing stem cells, and these neuroepithelial cells which line the inner surface of the neural tube differentiates into neurons and neuroglia of nervous system. So the neural tube initially shows three primary brain vesicles during 4th week of gestation. The three primary vesicles are prosencephalon, mesencephalon, rhombencephalon. To be more simple, we can say prosencephalon as forebrain, mesencephalon midbrain, and rhombencephalon will form the hindbrain. So later the three brain vesicles differentiates to form 5 brain vesicles. Before forming the vesicles, we can see the flexures which are associated with these vesicles. The two flexures which are present on the ventral side are the cephalic and cervical flexure. Cephalic flexure. So first we can understand here. From here to here it is the prosencephalon, that is the forebrain. Here to here is the midbrain, and the hindbrain which continues down as the developing spinal cord. So the flexure, because of the head fold of the embryo, the cephalic flexure, which is also called as midbrain flexure, present between the prosencephalon and rhombencephalon. So this is cephalic flexure. The next ventral flexure is the cervical flexure. It is the flexure between the rhombencephalon and developing spinal cord. So this flexure is called as cervical flexure. The dorsal flexure is the pontine flexure which divides the hindbrain into metencephalon and myelencephalon. So the dorsal flexure, what we see here, this is the dorsal flexure which is dividing the hindbrain further into metencephalon and myelencephalon. So this flexure is called as pontine flexure. So this is how the three brain flexures are formed among the primary brain vesicles. Let's talk about the secondary brain vesicles. The secondary brain vesicles are differentiated from the primary. So we can see the forebrain differentiating into on each side as telencephalon. So this together called as telencephalon. And in between the two telencephalon vesicles, we can see in the center in the midland diencephalon. And midbrain will form mesencephalon, which won't get much differentiated. And the hindbrain will divide into metencephalon and myelencephalon. Hindbrain, otherwise called as rhombencephalon, which differentiates into metencephalon and myelencephalon. So let's see what these brain vesicles will differentiate further. The telencephalon will grow enormously and it forms the cerebrum. It forms the cerebrum, showing the cerebral cortex. And diencephalon is the central core of the brain, and it forms the thalamus. Majorly it forms the thalamus, hypothalamus, which is present in the central core of the brain, where I'll show in the next picture. And epithalamus is not seen here. And mesencephalon will form the midbrain. So the mesencephalon is present here, which forms the midbrain, and cerebellum is from the hindbrain. Pons, this is the pons, and medulla oblongata are from the hindbrain. So this is the same flowchart showing the forebrain divides to form telencephalon, diencephalon. Telencephalon will form the cerebrum and diencephalon will form thalamus, hypothalamus, epi and metathalami. And midbrain will form mesencephalon, which won't be much undifferentiated in adults. It forms the midbrain. And hindbrain will form metencephalon and myelencephalon. Metencephalon gives rise to pons cerebellum. Myelencephalon, the cranial part forms the medulla oblongata and the caudal part forms the spinal cord. So these are the derivatives of secondary brain vesicles. So after complete flexures during the 3rd month of intrauterine life, this is how the central nervous system appears like, which almost looks like adult. This is the telencephalon, diencephalon. This is midbrain and the rest is the hindbrain and spinal cord. So this is an adult brain where we can appreciate the cortex of brain forming cerebrum, and here is the diencephalon. This part is the thalamus and this is hypothalamus, midbrain, pons, and this is medulla, which continues as the spinal cord, and we can see the cerebellum. So these are the adult derivatives of secondary brain vesicles in adults. Let's see the development of spinal cord. It develops from the caudal part of the neural tube, which is the myelencephalon now. The neural tube increases in its thickness due to the repeated mitosis of epithelial lining, which divides into 3 zones. So the innermost one is the matrix zone. So I am labeling here. This one is the matrix zone, which is the lining the cavity of the neural tube, which is also called matrix ependymal zone. And next to the matrix zone is the mantle zone. The dark brown is the mantle zone. And the outermost is the marginal zone. So these are the 3 zones. So matrix ependymal zone lines the cavity of the neural tube or the neurocele, made up of neuroblast cells. And these neuroblast cells are the progenitor cells, which are the neuroepithelial cells, which later differentiates to form neurons. Spongioblast will form neuroglial cells. And the cells of this zone are collectively called as neuroepithelial cells, which later differentiates and to form all these layers of the developing spinal cord. So the neural blast cells migrate to the adjacent layer, that is the mantle zone. Mantle zone forms the grey matter of the spinal cord, and the axons of the neuroblast cells forms the marginal zone of the spinal cord. So the mantle zone will form the grey matter and the marginal zone will form the white matter. Further, this mantle zone differentiates into basal plate and alar plate. We can see the sulcus on each side. This sulcus is called as sulcus limitans, which divides the mantle into basal plate. This is the basal plate and here is the alar plate. Basal plate is the anterolateral thickening of the mantle layer of the neural tube and which derives to form motor neuroblast cells in the anterior horn cells and which are general somatic efferent, and the lateral horns, that is the general visceral efferent cells region in the same grey matter it forms, and the axons from the cell groups continues to form the anterior root of the spinal cord. Let's talk about the alar plate. Alar plate is the posterolateral thickening of the mantle layer of the neural tube, which gives rise to second order sensory neuroblast cells of the posterior horn. So, alar plate continues to form the posterior horn or the dorsal horn, which has a dorsal root ganglion. So here the cells are second order neurons arise from this. And the sulcus limitans is the longitudinal groove which divides the neural tube into mantle zone into the basal plate and the alar plate. And the sulcus limitans appears during the 4th week of gestation, and it separates these two, that is the motor, basal plate is the motor and alar plate is the sensory. And the same sulcus limitans, it extends till the upper border of the midbrain of the spinal cord, and it disappears in the adult spinal cord, and it is retained only in the rhomboid fossa of brainstem. This is the picture of the adult spinal cord where we can see the derivatives. This dark one is the mantle. Here is the marginal. So this completes the development of nervous system.